joining us today, members of the Bedford Junior ROTC. And our climber today is Cadet Master Sergeant Koa Zumwalt. So at your leisure, let's have some encouragement, folks.
That Liberty Cap, is it lying exactly where it belongs? Springtime in New England. The season of town meeting and sedition. I don't know which one is worse. How many of you partake of town meeting? You're all out of your minds. Get her name. All right. Well, you'd best guard me here. This is a bit of a tough crowd. A bit of business before we get going. Is there a James Ringwood here? Someplace? I hear a James Ringwood?
Right again!
Ah, yes. Are you Mr. Ringwood? Excellent. Well done, sir. Come up, come up.
Yeah.
Can this guy draw a map? I mean, General Gage was very, very impressed. Little cannons, piles of musket balls, barrels of powder, all beautifully rendered. The check is in the mail, sir. Check. Well done. That piece of business in the past now? Yes. Well, good. Why are you all looking at him like that? Here's another one for you. True or false? Are you over there, are you all troublemakers? Well, General Gage and I spent well into the night trying to figure out just what it is that would turn this ship around and avoid all of the trouble that you people seem to be destined to create.
Give us back our charter.
When you behave, that's the deal. And what we did was we came up with something that we think is really going to make a difference. Another proclamation. Now listen carefully, I'm going to use some big words here. Whereas You can always tell it's a proclamation when it begins with whereas. Okay? Very good. After the many proofs His Majesty has given of his tenderness to all his people, all of you, yes, particularly in the manner in which he has referred the disturbances in the colonies to the wisdom of Parliament, and the temper and moderation shown in the addresses to both houses on that occasion, which profess so much regard for the welfare of his people. None but the most stubborn and factious, get her name, none but the most stubborn and factious of spirits can refuse to submit the care of their constitutional rights to the wisdom of the British legislature. I most sincerely hope that the people of Massachusetts Bay will rely on its decision with duty and submission which they owe to the legislative acts of the mother country. The infringements being committed upon the sacred rights of the Crown and people of Great Britain are too many to enumerate on one side and all too atrocious to be palliated on the other. All unprejudiced people in this and neighboring provinces will find upon a transient review marks of premeditation and conspiracy that justify the fullness of chastisement. I think we're getting through.
They're listening.
Very good. Excellent. There's more. I love you too. The press, that distinguished appendage of public liberty, has been prostituted to the most contrary and fallacious purposes. The resolves of the provincial congresses have breathed nothing but sedition, and armed assemblies of men, that's you, unknown to the Constitution, formed for the secret purpose of levying rebellion. To complete the horrid profanation of terms and ideas, the name of the Almighty has been introduced into the pulpits to excite and justify revolt and treason.
Praise God!
That's you, sir. I'm talking to you.
Better dead than red.
Seems to come around a lot, doesn't it? Yes. The authors and promoters of this desperate conspiracy mean only to amuse by vague expressions of attachment to the parent state and protestations of loyalty to their king, all the whilst preparing for a general revolt.
Up your whereas!
You must acknowledge it is our duty, as it were, the dictates of humanity to prevent, if possible, the calamities of a civil war. That's where you're headed. So that peace may be restored and all of the inhabitants of the colonies be enabled to reap the benefit of His Majesty's paternal goodness. In the preservation of their property, the restoration of their commerce, and the security of their most valuable rights under the just and moderate authority of the Crown and Parliament of Great Britain. We avail of the last efforts within the bounds of our duty to spare the effusion of blood and to offer, in His Majesty's name, His most gracious pardon to all who shall forthwith lay down their arms, stand distinct and separate from the parricides of the Constitution, and return to the duties of peaceable subjects, accepting only from the benefit of such pardon Samuel Adams and John Hancock, whose offenses are of too flagitious a nature to admit of any other consideration than that of condign punishment. May God, in His mercy, restore to His creatures, that's you, in this distracted land, that system of happiness from which they have been seduced, the religion of peace and liberty founded upon law. given at Boston this day in the reign of His Majesty George III, by the grace of God of Great Britain, France, and Ireland, King and Defender of the Faith. God save His Majesty the King! I think we're getting somewhere here. Good. Excellent. Each year, I think we get a little closer, don't we? Are there men from the military here? Yes. Ah, yes. I understand you have machines that fly through the air.
Indeed, sir.
Can we talk later?
I'll send a few your way.
Well, I think we'll, maybe we'll, yes. We'll be right over there. Very good. So glad to meet you all. See you next week.
By the way, that map I gave General Gage was directions to Nova Scotia. I think they'll be using it soon. I'd also like to acknowledge our second climber, Cadet Colonel Salima Chan. In a few minutes, members of the Middlesex County Volunteers will be playing a colonial lament entitled General Wolfe. It was written specifically to commemorate General Wolfe's death at Quebec in 1759 and appears in many musicians' notebooks of the period, including those of the Massachusetts rebel militia. Middlesex County Drum Major, please prepare your unit for the memorial salute. Representing those brave patriots in Lexington and those who responded from all corners of the colony to the bridge in Concord, I ask Captain Peter Secourt to present himself to the front of the podium. And representing our current day patriots who responded from all corners of this great nation and around the world, I ask Colonel Teona Enriquez, Command Master Sergeant Alan Weary, and Major General Anthony Genetempo to please present themselves to the front of the podium, along with past Minuteman Captains Roy Crane and Jim McGinn. Colonel Enriquez, Major General Genetempo, and Command Master Sergeant Weary, along with Captain Secor and past Captains Crane and McGinn, will now place a wreath at the stone memorializing Captain Wilson and all brave colonials who died for freedom on that eventful day in our history. Those members of the Colonial Minutemen and militia community who died this past year, those young men and women who have died this past year for the promotion of freedom around the world, and finally for all those first responders that were lost this year in the line of duty. May we now pause for a moment of silence in their remembrance, which will be followed by a colonial lament in honor of their memory. I want to thank all of you for joining us today for the pole capping ceremony. I also ask, how many of you know the history of the Bedford flag and its connection to April 19th? If you're interested, the original flag can be seen in the Bedford Free Public Library, which is next to Bedford High School on Mudge Way. We encourage you to see it. We only ask that you be aware that you will need to climb a flight of stairs to see it. Thank you again for attending. And I hope that you take away some of the words that were spoken here today and appreciate the fact that we are able to live in such a free, open, and accepting community. Unit commanders, form up your troops for the pass and review.
To the left. Nope. That's it. Jump. To the left. Face.